Now, we mentioned event organizer Live Nation is facing at least one lawsuit in connection with this tragedy. But this isn't the first time the concert giant has faced legal trouble. Now, Live Nation produces more concerts than any other entertainment company in the world. But the Houston Chronicle reports it has violated Occupational Safety and Health Administration, or OSHA, guidelines at least 10 times between 2016 and 2019. One of the most notable incidents happened back in 2016 during a Gwen Stefani concert. A woman sued Live Nation after she broke her leg in a, quote, stampede during the event in North Carolina. Live Nation was cleared, but a judge ruled the artist could be held liable. Also in 2016, a ladder, rope, and scaffolding issue resulted in one person's fall in Connecticut. Then in 2017, violations were found at a California amphitheater. 2018, a worker was hospitalized after being struck in the head by a 6-foot steel post that tipped over. And then in 2019, violations were found at a Washington venue. It's also not the first time that Travis Scott has been criticized for the crowd at one of his shows. In 2015, he was charged with disorderly conduct after police say that he told fans not to climb over barricades at Lollapalooza in Chicago. Now, the situation there was so tense that police tried to arrest Scott while he was performing. And then in 2017, a fan was left partially paralyzed after Scott encouraged fans to jump off a balcony at a concert venue in New York City. And then back in 2018, Scott pleaded guilty to disorderly conduct in connection to a concert in Arkansas. Police there say that he encouraged the crowds to rush the stage. He was also charged with misdemeanor counts of inciting a riot and endangering the welfare of a minor. Those charges were dismissed, but then there's this.
With extra security, we want to show you what it looked like when the festival opened its doors today.
You're actually looking at the promotional video for this year's festival, and as you can see, it shows images of fans breaking through security checkpoints at prior years of the event. We saw this obviously happen again at this year's festival. We also saw packed crowds, mosh pits. Astroworld Festival has since deleted that video off their YouTube page. Dave?
Let's talk about the legal consequences of this now. Bringing in Texas-based attorney, personal injury attorney with more than 30 years of experience, Quentin Brogdon. Quentin, good to see you this morning. At least 3 fans have already filed lawsuits. They have named Travis Scott, they've named Drake, they've named Live Nation as well as their contractor. But in your estimation, is this just the tip of the legal iceberg?
I believe it is. Based on everything we know at this juncture, this event was predictable, obvious, and very tragic. We knew you have to know if you're a concert promoter, you have to know if you're providing security at an event like this, and you have to know if you're the performer who has a history of encouraging people to basically break the rules and get rowdier than it's safe to be getting rowdy, that this kind of thing's going to happen. It's not a matter of if it's going to happen, it's only a matter of when. Unfortunately, it's now happened. 8 people were dead, hundreds were injured, and there's a precedent for this. There were people killed at a Who concert in the late 70s. There were almost 100 people killed in a soccer stadium in India when there was a sudden downpour and they raced for the exits. So you know, and you should know, it's foreseeable that people can get crushed, they can be killed, they can be asphyxiated, they can have cardiac arrests. We saw all that happen in this tragedy, and it could have been prevented based on everything we're seeing.
It seems that goes without saying, based on what you're saying, based on the incidents that Veronica just laid out, 2015, 2017, and the day of the concert, the Houston police chief visited Travis Scott, shared his concerns about this concert and for the fans. How much does that factor in here?
That factors in quite a bit. There's crowd control, and there's a safe way to do it. There's a technology for it. There are best practices for it, and it certainly appears, based on the video and the eyewitness accounts, that was not occurring here. Furthermore, even if you start with a set amount of safe crowd control, as circumstances change, you have a duty to adapt, and that does not appear to have occurred here either. It got increasingly rowdy, increasingly aggressive. We knew from the beginning, when the gates were stormed, that this was another event such as what we had had at this same festival in past years. So you should know if you're providing security, if you're the promoter, and if you're the performer here. Yes, if you're the performer, you should know and you should adapt.
And as we, parents across the country are looking at this video, Quentin, they're saying, our kids could go to a concert just like this. Travis Scott happened to be in an elevated perch, looking down upon fans at his concert that were being treated by medical crews. It was a disaster from the start. We've seen when they opened the gates, there was crashing, there was flooding. It was a dangerous scene. Are we looking at some type of class action lawsuit down the road? We're talking about 8 people lost their lives between 14 and 27.
Well, we've seen some lawsuits filed, and no doubt we will see more. This could have been prevented based on everything we're seeing. We need to get some more answers. The lawyers who have filed these lawsuits certainly will be taking depositions, testimony under oath from the key witnesses. They'll be looking at the documents, including the contractual documents between the promoters and this company providing the security, for example. What amount of security was recommended by the security company, and was that recommendation honored? That will be a question. But even if the recommendation was honored, at some juncture, as this got progressively rowdy and dangerous, there should have been steps taken to adapt to the circumstances, and it does not appear that occurred.
Yeah, the video on our screen right now is when they initially opened the gates. It seems to you and I and people with common sense that things should have been shut down right there. But on Saturday, Houston officials said 528 police officers were on hand at this concert and 755 private security officials. I have hardly seen a dozen, and I've watched 30, 40 minutes of video. Certainly we're looking at some financial penalties. Do you think criminal charges are on the way as well?
They're looking at criminal charges. There's a greater degree of culpability, of blame required for criminal charges. Negligence in the context of a civil lawsuit involving suing for monetary damages involves showing a breach of ordinary care. What would someone have done in the same or similar circumstances with the duties, for instance, that the promoter and the provider of security and the performer had? Criminal charges, on the other hand, require a much higher level of culpability, essentially criminal recklessness at a minimum, and it remains to be seen whether that is here. You would need to know more than we know at this juncture, I believe. I think it would be irresponsible to say that there should be criminal charges at this juncture until we know more, and appropriately so, but we need to all pause collectively and wait for the outcome of that criminal investigation.
Indeed. Quentin Brogdon has 30 years personal injury experience. Really appreciate your insight this morning. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.